right. 93. Do what thou wilt should be the whole of the law. This is Asha Renew from AshaRenew.com. And I'm going to do a quick live stream about the whole Cleopatra controversy or drama that's going on. You know, the whole debate about, you know, her ethnicity or her race. And I'm going to speak about it from a position that may be a little bit controversial, which you probably don't want to hear. But of course, you know, me representing the comedic perspective, I think I will be able to bring a unique perspective, right? What's up, bitch, hun? 93. Salute to you. Salute to you. Now, I'm going to do my best to take my time with this, not rush it, but I don't want to take too long on it. Because the whole thing is problematic. Meaning, do we think it is a coincidence that Jada Pickett is the executive producer of this series that's essentially being boycotted by the current Egyptian people? Out of all people that could have executively produced this, what's up, Mon 293? Out of all the people that could have produced this, for whatever reason they picked Jada Pickett. You think that's a coincidence? And I just want to be very careful with this because I don't want, you know, so-called black women to feel like I'm attacking them or, you know, I'm being misogynistic or sexist or any of these things. However, if you ask my opinion, the whole idea about Cleopatra, again, this is my opinion, this is something that I feel so-called black people shouldn't strive to be. Because the whole thing is about they're trying to promote quote unquote strong black women and strong black leaders and so on and so forth, right? And that's why they picked her in the first place in terms of why they picked Cleopatra, which essentially was going to be a problem from the beginning. And let me tell you why that was problematic before it even got any steam going. Just the fact that you're trying to channel that energy. Because people don't even understand the energy that they're trying to channel. Meaning you already was stepping into a problem and not even realize it. Because we're just looking at the surface. Let me explain further. If you are a so-called black person and you would want your daughter or your wife, your girlfriend, or any woman in your family, any woman that you care about, to be like Cleopatra, excuse me, that is problematic. In my opinion, Cleopatra should not be a woman that any woman should strive to be, if you're asking me. What woman should want to strive to be like her? If we're going to be honest. Now, people don't like being honest. So that's why we are in this situation in the first place. Because we don't want to be honest about what actually transpired. What people may not know is after the fall of Cleopatra, the whole Egyptian, whether you want to call it a society, whether you want to call it a culture, whether you want to call it the reign, the Egyptian reign, Egypt fell under Roman, the Roman people, the Roman leaders, the Roman society, whatever you want to call these people, right? The Romans took over Egypt after Cleopatra, meaning the whole great 1,000-year history of Egypt was ended with Cleopatra. Because after she fell by suicide and she was in power for 18 years, after she did what she did, there was no more Egypt. That was the end of Egyptian culture. So she wasn't just this powerful feminine leader who was seductive and charming. This is all these attributes that they give her, right? She was seductive, she was charming, she was able to seduce all these powerful men and had them, doing whatever she wanted. Not only did she kick off wars, meaning this was not successful. What she did was not a success. It destroyed Egyptian culture. But somehow we want to twist this up and make it seem like she did something right. She is the reason why Egypt fell because of her actions. Right? What's up, Immortal 7293? For some reason, we just want to look right over that. For whatever reason, want to look past all of the women who actually did great things, all of the women who actually we should strive to be like, all the women should strive to be like. We want to completely look over them and go directly to Cleopatra, who failed. She was not successful. She was on the throne for 18 years after falling out with her own family because she ruled the throne with her siblings or her sibling. She tricked them out of their position, and then she became the sole ruler. So not only did she fall out with her own family, and this is why I kind of understand why some so-called black women would identify with her story, because it's very similar to their story. And I'm not saying all. I understand why certain women, specifically a Jada Pickett, and women who identify with her, I can understand why they identify. So let me explain it further. Not only did Cleopatra have to trick her own sibling out of position for her to become the sole ruler, now we get into how she seduced all these men: Mark Antony, Julius Caesar. She had one child with Julius Caesar, then she had three children with Mark Antony. But again, she ruled for 18 years, started all these wars, all this controversy, and committed suicide. I understand why some women will identify with that, because that's really their whole story. Like, Cleopatra is a story of tragedy. This is not a success story. Her story is very tragic and traumatic. Not only did she fall out with her family, once again, she was able to seduce these men who were simps, And then she commits suicide. So she just left her children behind. So I can understand why, again, some why, because a lot of women are not even trying to have children. A lot of women have fell out with their family, and a lot of women are just trying to get into bed with, you could say, powerful leaders. That's essentially exactly what they're trying to do, and we call these women feminist, right? Not all, but some women actually identify with that fully. Like that's exactly what they're trying to do. Hence, Jada Pickett, who started a war, Will Smith, Chris Rock, Mark Anthony, Julius Caesar. We don't see the connection. We don't see the connection. And all of the bullshit that came after that. And I'm not even trying to cuss. Because you know, YouTube has started glitching the whole live stream. But you see, we don't want to pay attention to these things. We want to, like, okay, this is a, we should be looking forward to this. Women should strive to be this way. I don't agree with that perspective whatsoever. This is a story of tragedy. This is a story of a woman who, although she was able to seduce these men, we can't say that she was in a successful relationship because she wasn't. Otherwise, she wouldn't have, offed herself. She wouldn't have committed suicide. So, although she was able to seduce these men, she was not able to keep these men because she killed herself. A lot of women may identify with this. A lot of women, again, don't have successful relationships. So, of course, they are going to identify with Cleopatra. Again, so they don't have successful romantic relationships. They don't have good relationships with their family. It's just a bunch of tragedy. So, really, the only fulfillment they do have, you can say, is lust. Again, this is not a woman that cared about her children. So really the only thing she actually cared about was power. That was really the whole goal. There was no family orientation. There was the only thing that mattered to her was power, and that's why she corrupted the whole Egyptian culture. Egypt failed because of her actions. It came under Roman rulership after she fell. She was the last pharaoh of Egypt, the last one, because Egypt could not recover after her actions because of all the controversy and all the war that started after what she did. Meaning, this is a classic energy of what we call the Jezebel spirit, right? Meaning, there are women who are literally designed, not all women, some women are literally designed to destroy. We call these women renegade holes, meaning their whole purpose is to not fall in line with whatever program any man has laid down. They're not trying to fall in line with nobody's program. Their whole existence is based around being the one who essentially is holding a nuclear bomb and who is just trying to destroy everything that has been built because that's exactly what happened. But for whatever reason, then you have the Egyptian people who are suing Netflix because this is supposed to be a Netflix. I don't know if it's going to be a movie or a series. I think it's going to be a series. It's literally Netflix is being sued by the Egyptian people or, somebody in the political power who is able to do that. I say let them have her. Are we, excuse me, are we really about to fight the Egyptian people? Like they didn't upset the whole Egyptian culture because they say we're trying to change history. And I'm not even saying we, I don't identify with any of this stuff, right? Just on the surface level. We got the Egyptian people all in their feelings. They want to keep her. They want to claim Cleopatra. And I'm like, why are we trying to take Cleopatra away from them? Let them have her. This is not a woman that any so called black woman should strive to be like. What good is it going to do you? This is a woman who clearly did not know how to maintain power. She got into a position of power and she lost it less than 20 years. And again, I was like, that's why I say some women actually identify with that. Some women are trying to just, I guess they have from what, 20 to 40. Because a lot of women feel, after they hit the 40s, now if you're trying to have children, it becomes a lot more difficult when you hit your 40s. So you can say a lot of women really, their peak is between 20 and 40. That's how they feel. I'm not saying that this is true. This is just how a lot of women feel. So they feel like their prime is between 20 and 40 anyway. They only have a certain amount of time anyway to get, the type of man that they want. They're at the peak of their beauty. So they only have a short amount of time to do what they got to do anyway. So that's why I understand why women, I identify with some women. I'm not saying all. Once again, I understand why some women completely identify with that, and they're really you're actually gonna go against the whole Egyptian culture to put out this series and try to make her black. You see, this is a plot. How do I know this? Because black does not exist. There is no such thing as black. There is no such thing as race. These are all inventions that was not chosen by us. We don't call ourselves black or African American because we came up with these things. There is no such thing as an African. There are over 3,000 languages on the African continent. Africa is a continent. Africa is not a culture. Africa is not a people. But somehow we just want to ignore the facts. Nobody in Africa is identifying as African. They don't identify as that. But for whatever reason, that's something that we have accepted. But we didn't choose it for ourselves. We just was called that. Just like before, we was called Negroes. Before that, Negros. Before that, niggas. These are names that were given to us. We didn't create what we call black culture. How would we have created black culture if we didn't name ourselves? And then we wonder why we're treated like property. We wonder why we are not afforded rights. We wonder why when we get killed in the streets, nobody cares. Police officers get off scot-free. We wonder why all these things happen. Because we didn't even name ourselves. We don't have a culture. We don't have a civilization. And we're just fine with it. It's our fault. That's why we're trying to take Cleopatra and claim her. Well, that was a black woman. Well, if we go by the definition of black, that actually, they're correct. She was a black woman if you go by the actual definition. Which is why they would want to claim her, because all these people are identifying as black. You have women that identify as black. And again, they put her on a pedestal. Why are you putting a renegade hoe on a pedestal? And this is no disrespect to hoes. But renegade hoes don't respect renegade hoes. That's the point that I'm making. Real hoes don't respect renegade hoes. Because again, all they do is fuck up the whole system. And again, I'm not trying to cuss here. So we want to put this woman on a pedestal like she did something great. She didn't do anything great. She actually destroyed Egypt. If we just want to go by the history, she did nothing good for Egypt. Because if we look at her whole lifestyle, it was the complete opposite of what it meant to be Egyptian. Meaning her messing around with Julius Caesar and Mark Antony was not the Egyptian way. She was literally doing her own thing that had nothing to do with Egypt. She just so happened to speak the Egyptian language. See, this is what they do. They try to paint her as she was very intellectual. She was into politics. This was a very intelligent woman. The same way that they try to hide behind their education. There are many women, not all. Again, I don't want to make this an attack against women. It's just a certain group of women who identify with this. This is who I'm speaking about. That particular group or type of woman where they try to put their education on a pedestal, right? They go and they get highly educated. They may have PhDs, they may have doctrines, and they have these college educations, right? And they become like career women, but at the expense of being a family woman, meaning they put their career over their family, meaning they're fully career woman, they're fully invested in their career, but again, they don't have a consistent relationship with their own family or with a significant other. And this is what I'm saying. So the only thing that they try to basically they try to cover up who she actually was with her education, with her ability to be charming, with her ability to be seductive. There are many women out here who do the exact same thing. Where if you actually peel back the layers of these women, you're like, oh, this is a fucking atomic bomb waiting to explode right in your face. But if you just take it on the surface level, if you're just looking at her looks, if you're just looking at her beauty, if you're just looking at her accolades, you wouldn't know that. Hence, why she was able to attract simps. Because simps, that's all they're looking at. They don't know how to peel back the layers and see that this is a problem waiting to happen. They don't have that mental fortitude. So that's why the only thing that resulted from that union was the fall of Egypt as a whole. There was no more Egypt after that. And that's why I keep repeating that. So she was not successful. So yes, was she an intellectual? Yes. Could she seduce you with her words? Yes. Could she seduce you with her beauty and her looks? Yes. But when it is all said and done, this woman did commit suicide. Why? Because she could not live with herself. Meaning she did it out of pride. Because she could not accept the fact that then the whole Egyptian civilization is about to fall due to my own actions. So, meaning she was not going to allow herself to be killed by the enemy, so she decided to kill herself. Where is the success in this? How does this become a symbol of success? How has this become something that we wanted to accept and say, okay, she's black. Let's bring her into our culture. Well, again, that's because we don't know who we are. So this is just pointing out to a bigger problem, and this is why I'm even speaking about it. I don't even speak about these things. The only reason I'm speaking about this because it clearly highlights the problem within our own culture, within our own society, where we're literally trying to claim, you can say, the worst of the worst. We already do this, right? We put murderers, people who literally destroy the neighborhoods that we live in, we put these people on a pedestal. The person that's going around shooting and killing and drug dealing and doing all type of negativity in the hood, whatever we want to call it, we put these people on a pedestal. So we already do this. So that's why I say I'm not actually surprised that we are trying to do the same thing with Cleopatra because she is such a controversial figure. But this, we always attach ourselves to controversial figures. That's why we name ourselves after mobsters. Look at all these rappers that have named themselves after mobsters. We try to look for the most controversial people and then we take on the energy. But this is also why we get the results that we get. This is why our culture is in shambles and our culture is literally being destroyed right before our eyes and we're doing it to ourselves. But of course we want to blame other people, right? We want to blame racism. We want to say that, this is a race problem. This is a cultural problem. We need reparations. We're so quick to point the finger as if we're not doing this to ourselves. Like we are not the ones in the wrong. We are. But we don't want to accept it. Why? Because women are not trying to hear what men have to say. Men are not trying to hear what women have to say, right? We are at war with each other. So we have to go outside of our culture to even be heard. But here's the thing, here's the kicker out of all that. That's just the icing on the cake. That's not even the main problem. The main problem is we don't control our image on the world stage. What I mean by that is if a white man doesn't give the okay, meaning they're the ones writing the script. They're the ones who's directing the movie. They are the ones, and not just this movie. I'm talking about any time a movie that's released to an international audience. 9 times out of 10, it was not written by so-called black people. So our image on the world stage, we are not in control of our image. It's still some white man that has to get a thumbs up. It's some white man that's writing the script, that's directing it, that's telling everybody what to do. We're literally just the actors and the actress. So when we look at our image on the world stage, and which we don't even realize this. Why? Because all we're thinking about is how much we're getting paid or how successful we think we are. But we don't control our image, but everybody else does. The Egyptian people control their image. When they put a movie out on the world stage, they're not waiting for somebody else to give them a thumbs up. Nobody else controls their image. Everybody else, all of the cultures, control their image. So they put their best foot forward. But for whatever reason, when it comes to us, we have to be in the most controversial movies. And we have to play the most controversial roles. Excuse me. We have to play the most controversial roles. It always got to be some extra shit with us. It's very little positive images that come out about us because we are not in control. So the only time our image is even accessed on the world stage, it always got to be some weird shit. Have you seen the movies that are international lately? Whenever a black character is, whether it's a woman or a man, that they always got the person that's being a fool, the person that's being an idiot, a person is just is a weirdo. So if we do find ourselves in these movies, we are playing weird ass roles, saying weird ass shit. Why? Because we're not in control of the script. So we gotta read whatever's on that script. We are not in control of the words that even come out of our own mouth. So of course they're gonna just make us say the weirdest shit. It's like, yo, I don't even identify with that. But guess what? The check was good. But we want to act like we don't see this. We want to act like we're in control of our image. No, Jada Pickett is the executive producer. She is not the funder. She is not the writer. She is not the director. That's all coming from other people. That's the problem I have. Anytime our image is on the world stage, we are not in control of it. We don't have a say so in how we are portrayed on the world stage, and we wonder why everybody in the world looks at us just strangely. Because we are allowing this to happen. Because we choose to play these roles, and we have to say exactly what's on that script. We are not in control of what's being said or what's being seen. So, of course, and they always slip some craziness into the movies. Like Dave Chappelle said, like Bobby Hemmett said, they always want to put the men in dresses, like the Medea movies. Oh, they eat that shit all up. They eat that shit all up. But is that a true portrayal of black culture? Is that the image that you would want on the world stage? That's what we're into as a collective. We have a bunch of Medeas in our family. Is that the image that we really want to put out there to the world? It's different when it's just in America because we can tell the difference. When it's just in America, we know that okay, that's just a comedy. We can excuse that, but we're talking about on a world stage, on an international level. Is that the image that you want on an international level? That this is what we're into, that this is what we do? Probably not. But for whatever reason, the most ridiculous movies that make it to the world stage just has weird shit. It has us doing weird shit and playing weird roles, saying weird things because it's not written by us. We're saying things that we would never say. We're doing things that we would never do. It's just not within our culture to do these things, to say these things, and to portray ourselves in that fashion. Even the hip hop. Why does the most vile hip hop? This is the hip hop that people, that's why hip hop is banned in China. That's what we don't realize. This is why hip hop is banned in China. Because if you play like the top 40 songs and then you play the hip hop songs, why are we saying the most disgusting things that we can come up with? Like we have no imagination. But we just want to ignore this stuff like it's not happening. You can look at your top 40 right now. Look at the songs that's being played on the radio. Like, yo, is this really how you would want to be portrayed on the world stage again? We're not just talking about America. We can differentiate between what's real and what's fake, but the world doesn't know this difference. And that's what I mean. So on an international stage, all they're seeing is the most vile, disgusting things that we can come up with. And then we get paid for it. It becomes a gold record. It becomes a platinum record, but it is not a portrayal of reality whatsoever. But again, the international stage does not know the difference between reality and fiction. So because the international stage doesn't know the difference between reality and fiction, they are taking this as truth. So when they hear these records that we know are just absolutely parodies, like this is just absolutely ridiculous. But the international stage is taking this as reality. So much so that again, hip hop is banned in China because it's our fault. We did it. Because we took the money, but then the money comes at a cost of you have to say things that are simply not true. We have to amplify the violence, the dis and the dead, any vileness that you can think of. You got to be fucking somebody else's girl, right? You got to be fucking somebody else's bitch. You got to be smoking ridiculous amounts of weed. You got to be popping those Percocets. All of the things that completely destroy us. But we're going to put these in songs, and then we're going to put these songs out on the international stage. And then the world has this image that has been tailor-made because, again, we are not in control. We don't get to pick our singles. Once you sign that record deal, you don't get to pick the singles that are released. So even if you have conscious music, that's not going to be your singles. They're gonna pick the most vile, the most disgusting song. Okay, we're gonna put our money behind this. This is gonna be the single. This is what people are gonna hear from you first. To the point where you gotta buy the album. If you really wanna know what an artist is truly about, you will have to actually purchase the album because the single is not gonna be a portrayal of the reality of the artist. They're not gonna push your conscious records. Right? You don't get to have the same pull that a Kendrick Lamar has or a J. Cole has. But again, even Kendrick Lamar, he's coming under that Christian umbrella. So in reality, they're just pushing Christianity. And we know majority of us, still identify with that. So we still accept these things. We still put him as a top lyricist, or we put a J. Cole as a top lyricist. But most of us don't identify with anything they're talking about because we don't rap like that, we don't think like them, we don't speak like them. Some people may pretend, but that's not us. So who we really are only stays, you can say, in the hood, in the background, in the underground. The true reality remains in the underground. It is never introduced to the international stage. Why do you think we don't do more records with international artists? Right? I thought he was an Israelite. I don't know what he is. He may be that now, but if you listen to majority of his records ain't talking about Israelites or anything that they push. What's up, X2493? Salute to you. Meaning when I was listening to Kendrick Lamar, which I don't even listen to him anymore, when I was listening to him, he's talking about like, what is it, Good Kid, Mad City? Like Good Kid, Mad City had like a prayer on it, like from his grandmother or something. Like it still has a Christian undertone to it. So like his albums have Christian undertones. So he may identify with that now, but that's not what I was hearing when I was listening to him. Like, yo, I don't hear the words of an Israelite. Good Kid, Mad City is not going to give you Israelite vibes. Again, maybe his future albums, but you see, that's something that, again, I can't even speak on that because I'm just going by when he was introduced to the world. Back when I was listening to him, it didn't have an Israelite vibe whatsoever. It was Christian vibes. So he was introduced to the world under these Christian vibes. So if he eventually changed his stance, that's what he did on a personal level. But you're not going to really get too much of that in the music, especially the international music that's played to the world. What Israelite song do you know that's being played on an international level? It's not. That's not going to be the international song. Now, that may be the song that comes out in the underground that you know about. But that's not what China is listening to. That's not what Africa is listening to. And that's the point I'm making. They are still in control of our image. We don't control our image on the international level. We don't. And that's why I was saying, why do you think it's not more artists that do music with Chinese artists? And I'm not talking about a China Mac. We may do music with UK artists. We may work with UK producers, but that's still in the Western Hemisphere. We don't really go to the East and do music with them. Why? Because they ain't really trying to do music with us. They ain't tripping about doing music with American artists. They're looking down upon us because of our image on the international level, which we are not in control of. Which is my point. So we miss so many opportunities to change that trajectory because we are not in control of our image. We're still signing these record deals. We're still signing these movie deals. We're still signing up for other people to control what comes out of our mouth. What we wear, what we do, they are in complete control. We have handlers still. So even if you had the opportunity to work with an artist from China. If your record label says no, if they don't give the okay, it's not coming out. It's just that simple. So even if you want to do that, even if you wanted to work with an artist from India, China, an artist from the Middle East, if the record label says no, it's not going to happen. And that's essentially what happens. They just say no. So even the artist may be trying to upgrade their own creativity, but if the record label says no, it's just not going to happen. It remains underground if it even happens at all. And this is my only point here. We are not in control of our image. We are not in control of what other people hear. On the international level, the international stage is still hearing the most ridiculous nonsense. They are seeing the worst of our people. They're not seeing the best of our people. They are seeing the worst of our people. Now, we can tell the difference between the best of our people and the worst of our people, but on the international level, we don't. If you went to China right now, for all the people that have passports, take your ass to China. Take your ass to India. Take your ass somewhere over in the East. And then you listen to the hip hop that they hear. You think they're going to know these underground artists that we listen to that actually maintains a culture? They don't even know who these people are. But they're going to know about all of the nonsense. They're going to know about all of the bullshit. And that doesn't motivate them to even fuck with us at all on any level. It's like, why would I want to fuck with them? All they're doing is talking about drugs and killing each other, and like, why we want to fuck with them? Because their music, they can talk about real shit in their music, but we can't. We got to continue to paint this fantasy because that's how we pay our bills. We got to get our bills paid off of fantasy, even on the internet. Even on the internet, why do you think it's so much beef on the internet? Why are we always beefing? There's always so much controversy. Because that's what's paying people's bills. That's just a reality. That's what pays the bills. You wanna become popular on YouTube, you gotta beef with this person. You gotta go at this person. You gotta attack this person. You gotta be this, you gotta be that. You gotta fall into a certain realm of negativity and watch your views go up. You gotta hold yourself out. That's just the reality of it. You gotta hold yourself out. Then you'll blow up. As long as you fall in line. Now you got all these people that want to work with you, that want to collaborate with you, but you got to fall in line. You can't come as your real self. You can't come as your authentic self because that's actually scary to people. Who you really are puts fear in people. That's why they try to shield that from the world stage because the world truly saw what it means to be conscious. Because we created consciousness. Consciousness is not on the world stage. I hope you understand that. What we know, like for example, a conscious rapper, I'm not even a conscious rapper, consciousness. Because even conscious rappers just get into politics and they still fall into black struggle and all this stuff that is still within the box. So I'm talking about the wholeness of consciousness. That's scary to people. That's not something that you're even going to find in other places. They don't have that. They don't have that. That started in America. Just like hip hop started in America. But you know, it was on an underground level. But when hip hop was introduced to the world, what do you think they were hearing? They were hearing shit like Planet Rock. They were hearing shit like Rapper's Delight. So when the world was introduced to hip hop, they were just hearing that party shit. They wasn't hearing that street shit. They wasn't hearing that 5% talk. They wasn't hearing the gods, Eric B and Rakim. They wasn't hearing the Big Daddy Kanes and all that. That came later, and that's why that kind of phased out. The guys ain't really getting on the mic like that. Yeah, they're on the underground, but on the world stage, not so much. The world doesn't hear the God speak. The world doesn't hear God. They had this image of God. They're still on white Jesus time though. That's the point I'm making. They hear white Jesus. They don't hear God though. Because they're not allowed to hear God. They're not allowed to. That's why they trying to, push this overly goddess energy, and that's why I talked about Cleopatra and this renegade whole energy. This is no real woman should strive to be like that. But all you gotta do is watch the women who identify as that. Watch the women who try to back that, and you just know, like, okay, this is an agenda. These people are being paid to push this. This is an agenda which probably didn't even come from us. That's my whole point. It probably wasn't even our idea to even start all this controversy. It probably came from somebody who didn't even look like us, and we just got behind it because the bag was right. So of course they want to have all this controversy to make it popular. They're probably going to still release it. It's probably going to be an American release. So they probably still do it. But again, this is just another way to hypnotize the minds. Like, who's gonna watch Cleopatra and then look at so-called black women as the queens of the world, as the goddesses of the world? When you think they're gonna portray her in a nice fashion? No, they're gonna show her beauty. They're gonna show her elegance. They're gonna show all that. But then you're gonna see how much destruction that comes with it. See, we don't even see the plan. We don't even see the game that's being played on us. We don't see it. You think that this is going to put black women on a pedestal, that's going to put them in a great light? It's not. Most people are not even clear about what actually happened. Even the little that I revealed, most people didn't even know that. And I'm just really scratching the surface. I'm not about to make this a whole thing about Cleopatra, because this is just a little piece of a bigger issue here. That's why I wanted to speak about the entirety of the culture. I didn't want to just make it strictly about that. But a, this is just a mainstream example of a bigger problem of us not being in control of our image. So the world, again, doesn't see the gods, the real gods. The world does not see the real goddesses. We're still on an underground level. The world is not allowed to see reality. So the real gods and the real goddesses remain in the underworld. And then y'all wonder why I'm always speaking so much about the underworld. And again, it's not something that I really benefit from, because I'm looking at my subscriber count going down and down and down. My subscriber count is not going up because I speak about this. My subscriber count is going down. Every time I look at my subscriber count, down, I lost like 5 subscribers. I think like within the last couple videos. So I'm not doing this, that it's helpful, it's beneficial to me. It's not. But what the fuck am I supposed to do? Lie to you? I'm supposed to just to adapt to the agenda at hand. It doesn't, my spirit will not allow me to do that. So if I have to remain in the underworld, if I have to remain in the underground, then so be it. And real gods and real goddesses, we already know the assignment. If that's what you got to do, then that's what you got to do. That's why I understand why a lot of people don't even have social media. As you see, I'm not even active on social media. It's like it doesn't interest me, even though I should be interested and I should be doing a lot more, but it's like I don't. And I understand that a lot of the real gods and goddesses, we ain't even on social media like that. We ain't posting every day. We ain't trying to show people what we're doing on a day-to-day basis. We don't care about the world's opinion. But I'm just pointing out that our image is constantly being controlled. Our image is controlled, and it's a big fantasy. So that's why I say maybe I should be doing more. So I also accept that. I'm like, I actually should be doing more because our image is so heavily controlled. I actually need to be doing more. I should be showing the actual true culture because who the fuck else is going to do it but the gods and the goddesses? We are the only ones that can do it. So the few little people that do stumble upon the information or our vortex, whatever it may be, now they know the reality versus the fiction. So from that perspective, I'm like, I should be doing more because if I'm not doing it, the gods and the goddesses are not doing it, then it's just not going to get done. So I should be putting more effort into it because otherwise it's not going to get done if we don't do it. So that's really all I have to say from that perspective. All right, that's really all I got to say about it. I'm not gonna drag this out any longer than that. That's just my perspective of it. I know a lot of people are gonna disagree. Maybe a small portion would agree, but again, that's not the point here, right? I just have to speak the reality, as I always do, and as I always will continue to do, right? I know I had to just clean it up a bit. I'm trying to, not cuss so much. And as you see, I've been able to go live. YouTube ain't been glitching me up. The only thing I did, I'm like, all right, let me just stop cussing. Now that I'm not cussing now, you see, we can just ride. Before everything is glitchy and I can barely even say anything, right? But I just had to cut the cuss words out, but now it's all good. So I'm like, so even now I have to filter myself to even stay on here, because otherwise it gets all crazy, right? But it is what it is. Again, that's why we got the website, right? What's up, Harpies? Nice shout out to the gods and the goddesses. Definitely. Shout out to the real ones, right? Because the real ones, real will recognize real, and as you know, that's forever. But that's why they want to shield the image, because real will always recognize real. So when the East meets the West, then everything changes, right? When we're able to direct our image to the world stage in an unfiltered way, oh, then everything changes. Everything changes after that when we can control our image, but that's going to take work. That's going to take time. But this is just me doing my part. I know I'm only a small piece of the overall puzzle. I'm just a small little piece. I'm just doing my part, right? So everybody has a part to play. I'm just doing my little part. So that's my perspective. That's my opinion. I know it's controversial. I know it's not, you know, it's not something that certain people would like to hear. But what am I gonna do? I just gotta tell the truth at my own expense, right? So I'll get back at y'all a little bit later. 93, right? Love is a law. Love under will. We out.